They go beyond numbers. Their team helps you with estate planning, ensuring your wealth transfers seamlessly while you preserve the values you hold dear. In a world that's constantly changing and shifting economically, politically, even tax-wise, adapting to change is crucial. With Standard Chartered, you're not reacting, you're prepared. This is about more than financial success. It's about sustained intentional wealth. You can start your journey today. Email wealth.ke@sc.com, because if not now, then when? Now is your time for wealth. Now is definitely the time for wealth, and we ask you to think about some of these things even as we get to them. Sawa. All right, getting into a conversation this morning, and what is it that we are talking about? It's our Healthy Friday conversation, and it has, been front and center about a number of things that we discussed over the last couple of weeks. A Healthy Friday conversation is around, mental health, definitely, but then also pointedly towards some of the issues that come into society every day. Now, even as we do, our guest is seated for this hour, and our guest this morning is Sophie Morioki. Sophie is a clinical psychologist at the Amani Counseling Center and Training Institute. We're looking today at protecting students. We're talking about grooming, trauma, and response. Sophie, good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you in the hot seat of the Situation Room. It's the hot seat, and it's a hot topic today, but necessary for us to do. So we'll get into it into just a minute. Dennis is going to welcome you with today's proverb, and we'd like to hear your interpretation of it.
Our proverb today comes from Nigeria, a beautiful country, a population of 230 million people, over 250 ethnic groups. But you talk about the Igbo, Yoruba, and Hausa, who are the top three ethnicities there. Talk about the food, good. Talk about the people, beautiful. You can look at a beautiful person. They talk about the economy, the biggest economy in the continent. And they equally have very amazing proverbs, which I shall go to. Water doesn't go bad unless it has salt. Water doesn't go bad unless it has salt. How would you interpret that?
It sounds like something that remains, or something rather is pure up until it interacts with other external substances or issues. So much like a child. So a child is a child up until they are born, and then they're introduced to the world and to stress and to things like that.
Yeah.
That's what comes to mind.
That's what kind of discolors is, isn't it? Okay. Well, Sophie, our Healthy Friday conversation is around a societal issue, but is a health issue at the same time. So no better time than to be able to discuss some of these things, because then a lot of questions have popped up over the last couple of weeks. Okay, so how do I know? What do I do? If I see this, how must I react? How do I help? You see, all of these questions are swirling in so many minds at the moment. And we hear of school-going children, learners in school being the victims of as far as sexual abuse. And that's as far as it goes, and maybe in some cases even further. There are many, many things that are happening at the moment. Grooming has come up as something that seems to be novel to the minds and the ears of those who hear it today. But it's not a new phenomenon. It's been happening for a very long time. Our reaction as a society to it perhaps is something that is still very new, because, okay, what have we really done? So issues of grooming of girls in schools have made the headlines, but it's not a new story. So we're going to be looking at many of these circumstances, and we're going to be looking at how we can help victims and how we can ensure that children don't become victims. We will not make the mistake of making this securely a girls' conversation, because we are well aware of the fact that in society today, boys and girls are victims. So first of all, let's do some definitions. When we heard this grooming thing, it sounded like when it was introduced or came onto a larger scale, it sounded like something that an elitist group of people wanted to put together for it to sound, interesting. But it's not. What is it?
So I like how you've put it, that for sure it's not a new phenomenon. Nothing is new under the sun, they say. So grooming is a way in which an individual is, let's call it sucked in, because that's what happens. You're sucked into a situation that you didn't plan for, that you didn't ever foresee yourself getting into. And how it goes is, it's such a manipulative thing, because then someone is able to seek you out, identify you as a vulnerable individual, able to look at your weaknesses, able to say, okay, because of identifying this angle of you and your life, then you look like someone who can easily come into this space and I can do what I want with you. That's just a more candid way of putting it. Rather than defining it with big words and things, it's actually just being sucked into a terrible, terrible situation. So whether it's being sucked into emotional abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, grooming can happen to anyone, can happen to a child, can happen, I think it can also happen to an adult, because then you're caught unawares. And it's usually done by someone who is able to, like I said, point out your weaknesses, and not to you directly, but they identify them for them to know how to get in. They're able to see, okay, so maybe there's this kind of issue in your life, then they work their way around that to sort of get you to trust them, get you to even become intimate in the sense of allowing yourself to just say, okay, this is now my person, I can trust this person, I can disclose things to them. And in that way, now this person is able to now turn it into a situation where they become a predator. And you don't know they're a predator at that point, because then you're here. They've loved on you, they've hugged you, they've papasad you into their world.
They've what? Okay.
Yeah. And the next, groomers tend to be very charming. They'll meet your needs, meet you at your point of need. And the next thing you know, you're being violated in one way, shape or form.
So we talk about grooming, and we've had conversations, and you hear people say, this is just, like Kundu said, it's an elitist word for a group of people trying to prove a point that does not exist. But then again, from your experience and your day-to-day encounters with would-be your clients or survivors, just how bad is the situation?
It's bad. It's terrible, because then, okay, so we get to see people from all walks of life. So for instance, at Amani Counseling Center and Training Institute, we serve both children, adolescents and adults. So you get to find people who are currently being groomed, have been groomed and are in the system somehow, so they're going through some form of abuse, and or have a history of it. So maybe it happened as a child, you've grown up, and this is now part of your life story. So how bad it is, I think it's terrible, because then sometimes things don't come to the fore until something happens in the community, in society, that now makes us have these kind of conversations. In terms of numbers, they may not be able to give you the numbers, but I can tell you a lot of us are walking around with these wounds and these hurts from just having had a past experience with grooming. And it's happening in schools and in churches, in our neighborhoods. And so up until maybe there's something that happens in your life to cause you to come in to seek support, then we are able to get your history. Sometimes you don't even know.
How would it manifest, for example? Because, look, if anything here, we can say things as they are. And because there are actual human beings, people, who are suffering from these situations. They're not making them up. They've gone through them. So if somebody went through grooming, and like we've heard, in school, for example, if a teacher has been grooming a young girl, or as deviant as it is, a young boy, and they enter into almost a sexual relationship with this teacher, remember that at the time that they do this, they are, for all intents and purposes, according to the law, a child. And they're not quite sure, because at that age also they're impressionable, and it is at that age where you're seeking a lot of acceptance, there's a lot of peer pressure. How would it manifest later if in this period, because some of the crazy things that we've heard over the last couple of days is that, well, it's the victim's fault. They're the ones who've taken themselves to the teacher. They are the ones who have, presented themselves as, whatever. We had this. Is it at that time the damage that would be done to somebody psychologically may not be experienced and manifested later?
You see, the thing, okay, first of all, let me respond to the thing I was trying to ground myself about.
Yes.
A child is a child. Right? So we cannot blame children for making an adult do something. Let's just put that out there. Even we are told that our brain doesn't stop developing up until we're about 21 years old. So how do you put that kind of pressure and responsibility on a child? A child will do what you've taught them to do. So with grooming, if a child is sucked into a situation and they're taught how to, they're sexualized, right? And you see, sometimes you hear cases of children defiling or abusing other children, and it's because they were introduced to it. A child will not know how to do this until they are taught how to do it. A child will not know, that the male member can go into the female member unless they've seen it. The same way they learn how to drink from a bottle when they're taught, or from a straw. So then we cannot put that kind of pressure on children. In terms of how it might present, so sometimes you'll be able to know things are happening with kids because of how they behave. A child can't come and tell you, I'm stressed, I'm having a hard time, I'm doing this, especially younger kids. It's from their behavior. So younger kids, let's say under the age of 8 to 10 years old, you'll start seeing some sort of, you call it regression. So in younger kids who've been able to potty train, for example, they're not able to now hold their stool or their urine, and they're now messing themselves, a skill that they had already acquired. Maybe they're not eating, they're not sleeping. The younger kids, again, will become aggressive, and they'll lash out, and they'll do it. You said I can say anything. I can be candid.
Yes.
Be candid.
So we're dealing with real situations, aren't we?
Right. So a younger child, a 5-6-year-old, when they've started regressing and they're lashing out, they'll take their own stool and fling it at you. So that is a cry for help. That is showing you that there's something wrong with this poor baby. An older child may not have that kind of response, but they will have, like I said, different behavioral problems, and you'll see it in their grades. You know your child, so you know when they're not
okay.
They're not okay.
Yeah.
Teenagers, again, are already going through their own set of issues with hormones, they're changing bodies and whatnot. So if there's a stressor in their life, again, their behavior is even worse than the new normal, because it's a new normal with teenagers. So look at this child, look at their routine, look at their usual way of doing things, their usual disposition. That is the number one sign that something is going on. Have a conversation with the said child, check in on them. Sometimes you're able to get some inroads, sometimes not. And if not, guess what my next response is going to be? Bring them in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bring them in, and we're able to have a conversation with them and get them to open up.
So here's a case of grooming that has happened over time, and because this is a child that has been taken advantage of by an adult, it is something that they do not know how to respond to, because they trust the individual in the room to be the bigger person,
Right.
as the community also expects the same. But here's a question where someone lives with the trauma for years on end, and comes to speak at a time when, first of all, perhaps they've gone through trauma, through counseling, they're able to talk about it, they're able to share, and finally able to call out the perpetrator. One would argue, because we've had it being said that mbona alinyamazia hiyo kitu for a very long time, and one asks the question, is there a measure of time when it comes to dealing with trauma?
The ideal situation would be that as soon as it has happened, then we do something about it. But then that's not to say it's all doom and gloom. So we encourage parents to do their part even as they're bringing up children. The usual things of when you're taking your child to school, when they're coming home, find out how their day was. That's the part where you're trying to build up this human in a loving and nurturing manner. So let's fast forward and say something happened. You can't start blaming people, parents and things like that. We can repair. So as to time, you see, the thing is, when traumatic situations happen to individuals, kids learn how to survive.
Yes.
And they'll develop their own coping mechanisms. So will an adolescent, so will an adult. So at some point, it will come up. It will become apparent something is wrong. So even if maybe there's some intervention, like you put it, it doesn't mean it has totally gone away. We learn how to live despite the trauma. You're taught how to look out for signs and triggers and things. Sometimes we ignore the signs, and you go on through your day-to-day, get into a relationship, get married, have kids.
Who ignores the signs?
We do sometimes.
The people involved or the people around them?
The people involved.
The victims.
The one who's gone through the traumatic situation, and sometimes even the people around them.
What are the signs? And I think this is important because it comes from the other question of when this grooming is actually taking place. When are you aware? Because we talk to a lot of victims who will say, well, there was something that was off. But you do it because you're seeking that validation. But when that process is taking place, are you aware that there's something wrong? And I'm asking this question, trying to tread ever so delicately here, because there is still this innuendo out here that, again, that the victims are inviting this behavior from the said predator.
Sometimes I feel like that statement comes from a point of ignorance. Because you are not there. For you to say that the victim, we go through victim shaming, victim blaming. Sometimes when things happen, we want to blame somebody. The perpetrator could be a big shot that you can't bring yourself to blame, so you end up re-victimizing the victim. As to whether the victim is aware, the survivor rather. So sometimes you have a feeling that something is off. Because then how you've been brought up, how you've been socialized, you've been taught that some things are not good. Let me give the illustration of what we do with kids most of the time. We teach kids stranger danger, don't we? We tell children.
Stranger danger, absolutely.
If a guy comes up to you and gives you okay, now I'm going to tell off my age if I use that example. Gives you a sweet. I was going to say something that would make it very apparent.
Okay.
How old or what era I'm from.
Yeah.
So they give you something and you take it. You know, is that something you're supposed to do? And you teach your kids, you're like, never accept things from a stranger. You know, don't go into this car. But what about the fact that most of these things happen, most of the abuses that we see are done by people known to us?
Absolutely.
People in our community, in our spaces.
Relatives. Even.
Relatives, domestic workers.
Teachers.
Yes,
pastors. You know, respected leaders in our communities. So that's not to say that now I'm telling us to be hyper vigilant, because then we need to have balance and be able to live life. But have these conversations with your children and teach them. If anyone starts telling you, for example, don't say this is between me and you, this is our little secret. Because that's how grooming thrives, right? On secrecy. So when someone tells you, see, this has felt nice. Yeah, don't say this to mom. Don't tell anybody. So sometimes they'll coax you into it, or sometimes they'll threaten you and say, if you reveal this, I'm going to kill your mom, I'm going to kill your dad, I'm going to kill... You see, by that time, they know who matters in your life, they know who's in your space.
Circle.
So they'll use that to manipulate you into silence. So you'll start seeing changes in your person's behavior. If it's a child or adolescent, you'll see changes in their behavior. They're becoming a recluse, or they're becoming more withdrawn. When you ask them simple questions, they overreact. They are not able to just outright tell you how their day was. You'll see, and you will know for a fact. There's something off. Follow your gut. Follow your gut. I'd rather you have that conversation and kosana with your child than you kept quiet and 5 years later you're finding out something happened.
Is silence, this keeping quiet, a tool that is used? Because that's the thing. Oh, don't tell anybody, keep it between you and I, or I'll kill your mom, you know, whatever the threat is. But we also see this silence has been institutionalized. So we're moving away from the place whereby it's just a two-person encounter, maybe at home, in the home setting, whatever. Don't tell anybody, don't tell your auntie, don't tell everybody. But then also institutionalized in the church, in schools, whereby it's going to be hush-hush, because that's the thing that's going to bring shame to the institution. Is it not? Is it? Is it being used as a weapon to perpetrate this kind of thing that we are seeing?
It may not be intentionally being weaponized, but it does become a weapon. So keeping quiet may not be the tool of choice, but I feel like it becomes weaponized, because then what is the purpose of keeping quiet? Not to stir the waters. Because why?
You bring shame.
Oh, okay. And then at the end of the day, you have an individual whose life has been shattered.
Yeah.
And then this person is going out into the world knowing no matter what I go through, I cannot trust anyone to have my back. I cannot trust anyone to take care of me when I'm down. So that's the cost of silence. So it may not be a tool at the get, but it's weaponized as people continue to keep quiet, because then they don't want to be embarrassed and to, take their brand.
Okay.
Because it's a brand, isn't it?
It is a brand. It is a brand.
The system is a brand.
I want us to take a break, and then we can come back and look at how this manifests, because then I'll share a little story with you about, a young man and what happened with him. And then what signs do you look for as parents, as brothers, as sisters? You talked about you can tell that something is going on later in life. What signs can you actually look for? We'll come back and talk about some of these things when we come back from this break. It's 28 minutes to 10 o'clock, having a conversation this morning with counseling psychologist Sophie Morioki, and I have to remind you that if you are looking for dialysis and you happen to be on Thika Road, you want to go to the Royce.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
We've got you with an upgrade on us, plus the best entertainment.
People always ask me, do you ever get scared?
This thing is spicy.
We're going big.
Look what you've been missing.
He has done it!
I like it, but can he sing?
More shows, more value, and more reasons to stay connected to DSTV with an instant upgrade and more channels on us. DSTV, we've got you.
In a world drowning in half-truths, in whispers that masquerade as facts, how do you find the real story? You cut through the noise, you demand clarity. For decades, the Standard and the Standard e-paper have been Kenya's unwavering heartbeat. It is judged every word, every angle, bold enough to challenge and reveal factual above all else. But the truth isn't static. It evolves in every moment, and so do we. Presenting the Standard all-in-one app, your direct portal to real-time news, curated entertainment, and premium content. From the unfiltered truth of breaking stories to the depth of our exclusive investigations. From powerful podcasts that challenge perspectives to the complete e-paper experience in your hands. This isn't just an app. It's your daily dose of pride in Kenyan journalism. It is the trust you deserve. Don't just hear news. Understand it. Live it. Download the Standard all-in-one app today. Be part of something bigger. The Standard. For generations, Kenya's unwavering voice. Judged, bold, factual.
There's no place I'd rather be.
Your home.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
At that point, bless her soul, because she blames herself today. She said that she passed it off as, okay, this is just, he's playing out, And so it was a long holiday, and they started getting back, and she said, give me your school list because we're going back to school. And she said, I do not, and he was clear, I do not want to go back to that school. And so he's repeated it, of course, many times. And she's like, okay, again, he's acting out, because and then in retrospect, she realized that over that holiday, he was a little bit more reclusive. He was more reclusive. And so the week before school, she now said to him, look, give me your list. We need to go do the shopping. We are going back to school next week. And she had gone to work, and she was going to come back to get him later on in the day to go on and do the shopping. And she comes back home. And bless her soul, she finds this young man has hung himself in his bedroom.
Yeah.
Only for her to find out later that this young boy, had been sodomized in school repeatedly. He didn't know how to say these words to his mother. But his communication to her was that, I do not want to go back. Now, later on, she said that if she paid a little bit more attention, she would have noticed that he came back from school a little bit more guarded, a little bit more quiet, except for him opening his mouth to say that I don't want to go back to school. There were other signs. It's a sad, very, very tragic example to give, but even from our comments this morning, and you can see some of the young men and some of the men and women who are talking about things that they've gone through. How can you, as a caregiver, a parent, a sister, an auntie, an uncle, how can you see that maybe this girl or boy has gone through something at school or wherever, at church, that we can help with?
And the unfortunate thing is that story is not unique. It's not unique to this lady, unfortunately. Each time you hear it, I'm just like, my heart goes out to that family and to the people involved. But in terms of the signs and symptoms, so earlier I gave examples of like younger kids, and I think you've also sort of answered the question by talking about this particular case study. So looking at those things, there are changes that you see, especially if your child goes away to boarding and comes home every month or every 2 months or whatever. If you see drastic changes, that's your number one question. And if someone is saying, I don't want this, I don't want to go back to that church, I don't want to go back to that school, how about we stop and ask the question of why? What's going on? What's cutting? What's happening that's making you come out so strongly? And I get it. We are not naive to the fact that kids can say things for the sake of saying them, because maybe they don't like the food. Or other things. Let it be that they say this is the reason, but ask the question of why. And if you're not making any headway, then in your life there are people that have inroads in terms of they are trusted members of the family and they are close with this child that they can talk to. So do they have a sibling that they relate with, a cousin? Tap into your resources around you because you have them. And if then you feel you don't want, because then we have this thing of we don't want to air out our dirty laundry. Right? How we've been brought up and socialized. So with all due respect, so there's that angle. So if you feel like you cannot use the resources around you, again, I say come in. Look for a mental health professional who can help. Come into a facility like Amani and we know how to talk to different people of different ages. Then we can get to the bottom of things. So there's the behavioral aspect of things in terms of signs and symptoms. When there's cases of sexual abuse, for example, with kids you will find physical symptoms. There might be physical symptoms. So hopefully it's a situation where a child can come and tell you, when I peed, I saw blood. It hurts when I pee. When a child tells you that, you respond, don't you?
Yes.
And you take them to hospital. They're having a hard time passing stool because then if you're being sodomized, then some of these things are going to affect your anatomy and you're going to manifest in a physical way. Maybe they're running fevers. Maybe they're just having those we call hypercoolers, signs and symptoms that don't have an exact source of infection or whatever. take that child to hospital. Because then you're teaching this person, when you have a problem and you come to me, we work together to get to the bottom of things. Ignoring them is not always the answer. Maybe it's a problematic child. I hear all of that. I really do. And some situations require a lot of empathy. So let's just try and do things a bit differently. Because then what you are finding is, even though we said at the beginning there's nothing new under the sun, we're in a time where we have access to information just like that.
Yeah.
So stories are going to blow out of proportion, but then let's look and see and respond to these things. And like I said before, your gut feeling. You have a gut feeling, don't ignore it. I'd rather you go spend that money in hospital or a counseling facility or whatever, and you're told your child is fine, they're just a bit stressed. You know, they learn coping mechanisms, they learn things, but then they've learned that they can come to you with a problem and get help.
You see, Sophie, we're living at a time where, if you look at pre-Gen Z generation, right? So here is a question where you look at the African culture, where respect your parent. There are so many boundaries that even speaking to a parent is difficult. Most of the things that people are receiving from the parents is an order. Is an order. There is no way I'm asking, why am I doing that? So you find from the word go, one would not know where to go, and that has been the case, which has made it difficult for children to speak up, because if you speak to your fellow child, there is fear that watanichekelea. If I go to my mom, I always receive an order from them. Now, how then must we all just sit down and look at what are we doing? How do we need to change things and open these doors so that we are able to have a discussion, to speak as friends? Because there is that element of friendship between an adult and a child that has been lacking for a very long time.
Correct. Because then we've grown up knowing that how do you know your parent loves you? In the African setting, how do you know? I pay your fees, I put a roof over your head,
I feed
clothes
you.
on your back, I feed you. I love you, right? But each generation changes. And we hope that with each generational change comes with the wisdom and discernment to utilize this change to our advantage. So I'm going to say, tell your child you love them. Bore them to death.
Tell them.
I love
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Bore them with that story. They're like, mom, not like. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
When you're dropping them off
Hug
to school,
them in front of people.
yes,
It's okay. Yeah.
you hug them and they're like, let that be the reaction from your child. But they have no doubt in their mind what healthy love looks like. Because then when they're being groomed and they're being manipulated into a situation, then even they will have agency and feel like, this feels wrong. And they'll come back to you and say, you'll ask, how was your day? What didn't you like about your day in school? What didn't you like about school today? You ask such questions, open questions. They'll be like, so-and-so did and touched and I didn't like that. You're like, what? And you listen to them and you take action as necessary. So even as we teach stranger danger, then we also need to teach our kids what is appropriate touching. Because, we have songs that we teach kids, these are my private parts, which has by the way expanded to our eyes, our ears, our mouth. Everything is a private part. You have no right to touch me without my consent. Even when you take a child to hospital, you will see how doctors have changed the way they approach a child. They want to examine them, they have a cough, they'll be like, is it okay if I check your chest?
Yeah.
And you'll find that the stethoscope is coming on top of the shirt rather than under. And if they really do need to explore further, they will seek consent from the child. Assent. Because a minor cannot give consent, but they can give assent. If that child says no, respect their no. If the doctor pushes and you're there, do something about it, because you're teaching your child, we are modeling behavior. So we have to be the ones to show these kids what the world is like in a safe way, right? Otherwise, then they're going to be taken advantage of left, right, and center. And like you've rightly put it, they don't know where to go for help. But we have phones, we have access to the internet. So they're being groomed online.
Yes.
Kids are gaming left, right, and center, and they're being groomed on some of these sites. So then are you having a conversation? Do you know what game your child is playing? When they say they're playing with friends, who are these friends?
Yes.
Is that Tom on that site really an 8-year-old boy? How do we know? You must annoy your children and look into, I'm not saying spy on them, I'm saying get into their lives, because they're not going to be your children for a long time. They're not. So we need to also take those steps and challenge ourselves and go beyond what we feel is comfortable, right? To get to the bottom of things and make the changes that we want to see in these children. And if you're having a hard time, you don't know how to do it, I'm still going to come back and say, come in, because we need to normalize seeking psychological support.
Yeah.
Coming into Amani doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. You can actually just come in for a chat. The same way, we know when people's medical insurance is about to run out. See, they go and get checked. Why is that okay? Right? So why can't we normalize going to talk to somebody? Because I feel like something is wrong at home and I just wanted a sounding board. Come and let's have the conversation and we figure it out together. We have this community. Why are we not taking advantage of the resources in our community? That's my challenge to us. And let's take it upon ourselves and educate each other around it.
So, because of this kind of situation, that it is a wider conversation because there are other parties that are involved, especially because we are dealing with children, and we say children for all intents and purposes according to the law, under 18.
Yes.
Especially because now we are dealing with the school setting a lot, and those who are under the care of their parents.
Correct.
That means we involve other systems, the justice system being one of them. And one of the big things that we've seen is the questions abound that when this happens to a young girl or boy, what do you do about it beyond the counseling for the stability of mental health, for example? But what do you do about it? Because there is a perpetrator here. There's a predator. There's a pedophile. There is someone. So should there be a greater insistence that security agencies, the justice system, actually does get involved when a child should open their mouth and speak in the manner in which we have seen children speaking recently? How seriously do we take them and do something about it to deflect this behavior from the would-be predators, perpetrators, pedophiles who are still lurking in the shadows in society today?
And that's it. I mean, we're focusing on the victim, the survivor, and then this guy will be arrested, maybe if you're lucky, right? And the unfortunate thing that we see happening is this guy or this person, the perpetrator might be male or female.
Yeah.
Domestic workers are molesting girls and boys, right? So let's not assume perpetrators are all male, but the perpetrator, depending on who they are, can remove resources. They'll pay their way out of it, whether it's the agencies or the families involved. But we must also say no. There's consequences to behavior. We keep saying that to kids, but are we actually showing these kids that there's consequences to behavior? Let them be held accountable. So when a child has come and made a report, as stressful as it's going to be, it's for a time, but follow it to its logical conclusion. So the mental health aspect, we've talked about the physical symptoms. So you'll go to a hospital. If things are found, why are we not making the report and submitting the report to the necessary agencies? And then that person must be held accountable. What you're finding in the justice system is that a young child sometimes doesn't even need to present physical evidence, because then does this child have the capacity to lie? Right? So a judge is able to make that discretion.
They can tell.
They can tell. And if they need further investigation, then they'll do it. And the justice system is changing in terms of family court. They're recognizing the essential services that come with either counseling or psychological support, even in these court cases, because they know that this is a traumatic situation, even for an adult. How much so will it be for a child? But these people must be held to task. Perpetrators must be held to task. And I think sometimes we're a bit lenient. There's talks of reconciliation. Oh, he apologized. Oh, there's this. But then more often than not, you'll find that when there's grooming involved, it's not one person. It's not one child. So we just need to take it seriously and do something about it.
You've mentioned something that is critical in terms of, okay, fine. As a parent, I might not know how to deal with this. There are cases happening. As a victim, I don't know where to go to. But then there is the professional bodies that can assist me, people that I can trust, first of all, to keep my secret and equally take me out of the burden that I'm in. But you find that, like you've said, insurance is expiring. Let's go for a body checkup. I just know where I am. But it's usually that line people don't cross to go see a therapist, because there is also a stereotype that has been built. If you go to see a psychologist, you know what I mean? But here is a situation where now we have to make these conversations normal, that it's easy and it's okay for you to walk inside a therapist quarters and seek for help.
Correct.
Are we having these discussions? Is the government itself even doing more? Because the other day, the government said mental health in the country is a ticking time bomb. But is there anything being done? Are we having these discussions like we are right now?
And I'm so grateful that you guys are doing this, and you know, set the trend, you know, show the way, lead from the front sort of thing, right? But with government, then if you even look at the allocation of funds to mental health, I mean, seriously, the good thing is that a task force was formed. Research was done in the country to see what the state of mental health is in this country.
It was a state of emergency that was declared after that. A state of emergency was declared in terms of mental health.
Right.
But you see, the problem is, when a state of emergency is declared, this was under the President Uhuru Kenyatta. When a case of emergency is declared, constitutionally, what you should do is that if it seems, you set up a task force, tell me the situation. We've told you the situation. When the president declares a state of emergency, what that does is that it unlocks funds. So you want to ask the question that why are the funds not being given? There's your answer. So how bad does it need because this is the thing that we need. Unfortunately, our default seems to be that we need this thing to get really bad.
Yes.
Then we can do something more about it. But unfortunately, with cases like this, it's too late by the time it has gotten really bad. Is it not?
I mean, I talked about repair, but we don't want to get to repair. And like you said, you rightly put it, historically, systematically, our default is reactive. We wait for things to happen. We react. We form committees. We do what. How about we change tack? Because if we analyze the situation, has it worked for us in the last 50, 60 years? Maybe a little, but to the greater good, not so much. How about we change tactics and say, let us be more mitigative about things? That's why I'm saying we develop healthy seeking cultures. We develop the idea of looking for help before we need it. So then if you're having these conversations here, then I'm hoping you're having them in your circles, in your homes. And okay, it's going to be a slow titration down to get all the people that we want to get on board, but it's better than keeping quiet. So having sensitizations in schools, having sensitizations in churches, being able to open up some of these discussions in our community, it's everyone's responsibility. So we do our part at Amani in terms of getting the word out there, in terms of even trying to get people to know we are there, that they can walk in, get services. We get people who even reach out online. So you don't want to be seen on Bagathi Road, turning left after Total, you know, going into Amani. See what I did there?
I got it. Pretty brilliant.
But you do have people sliding into our DMs, whether it's on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. People do reach out because then they need to have a bit of, even on email, they just want to be heard. So they test the waters, they dip their toe. And when they get the response, imagine they come. And then don't even think you have to physically come. Virtual sessions are available. But the thing is, we need to be able to also, I can't come to you individually as much as I'd love to. I cannot come to you and tell you I'm here, talk to me. So sometimes you have to be the one to reach out. So then for you to get to that point in your mind where that is okay, imagine we start with the kids. We start with kids, we teach them. If you can't talk to me, and this is now where parents have a hard time. You need to be able to talk to your child, I get it. But what your child feels like, mommy tends to overreact when, you know, she hears someone did something to me. If you feel you can't talk to me, talk to X. Talk to X. You know, there are people called counselors or whatever who you can talk to, and they'll keep a secret unless, you know, there's self-harming involved. Teach them from the get-go, and then that way we grow up knowing that it's normal. And it's happened. You're seeing it a lot with the Gen Zs, you're seeing it with the Gen Alphas even. I see kids all the time and ask them, do you know what a therapist is? And imagine they tell you. They know the term, they know what a therapist does. So that shows me this child has been socialized to learn that it's okay to talk about mental health and mental health practitioners.
Yeah.
So let's start from that point. Yeah.
So one thing that struck from a conversation even that we had yesterday right around this is that